Welcome everybody, it is Debbie O'Neill of Scribing Quick Designs, and Cricut made some announcements this week about changes that are coming to the desktop version of Design Space. And it's got people little feathers ruffled a little bit because they're like, oh my gosh, more changes. I will tell you that some of these changes are very cool and they are things that we've been waiting to see in Design Space. So today's video, I want to take out any doubt you have about using the new stuff coming out. It'll be rolling out here in the next 2 or 3 weeks to everybody. And I want you to know it's not that scary, guys. So today's video, I will do step by step and show you all the things that are going on when you get the new version so that when you see it, you're like, ah, piece of cake, I got this. It's really important to me that you guys understand that what I'm showing you today is the beta version. And beta means that some things may change along the way before Cricut rolls it out to everybody. And if you love what I'm going to show you today and you cannot wait for it to roll out to you naturally, then you can also play with the beta. So you could go up here in the top menu where the 3 little lines are, you click on that and you go to Settings. And here where it says Application Experience, you too can have a chance to use the beta version. So it defaults to the live version, which is what everybody has. And then if you want to play in the beta, you can click it to beta and hit done. And what's going to happen is it's going to automatically go through and update your Design Space account, and then when it comes back up, it's going to say beta up here. Okay, now caveat, beta means that Cricut is still doing some tweaks in the back end of the software before it is officially completed, I guess you would say. So the beta is sometimes can be a little wonky. I would strongly recommend that you save your projects as you're working on them, just so that you don't lose anything in case there's some kind of glitch, because as I said, it's in beta, so it's still in test mode. But everybody else, it will roll out to you over the next 2 to 3 weeks. You will eventually get an update to update Cricut Design Space. Remember, this is only for the desktop version, and you in desktop, Cricut Design Space you use on all the different machines. So this is for everybody. It's not just for Cricut Maker 3 people or Cricut Joy or whatever people. I've been seeing people ask that question a lot. So it is for everybody. In today's video, we're going to talk about what are the changes to the layers panel that you need to know that you're going to love, because it's things we've been asking to do. They have also given us some extra actions for using the Weld and other features, and they kind of change where that is and what that does. So I'm going to show you that. Anyway, what I wanted to start with though is let's take a quick look at what does Design Space look like today. What does it look like right now, so that when I start explaining the changes, you can see that it's not that big of a difference, because I don't want y'all to be worried about it. So let's take a look at that real fast. Currently, most of us have the version 7.19 point whatever. And I just wanted to take a quick moment and show you what does it look like now, and then when I show you the new changes, maybe it'll make a little more sense to you. I know it's confusing, but so currently we know that we can put images on our screen, and we can take 2 shapes and we can slice them, and when we slice we get these results. Okay, so you can slice 2 images. You cannot slice more than 2 images right now. And the layers panel at the bottom looks like this. It has slice, weld, attached, flatten, and contour down across the bottom. On the top layer, it says group, ungroup, duplicate, and delete. And then in between each of the different layers, basically on your layers panel, it's lined, and it tells you that it's a basic cut, and it tells you the name of whatever it is. Okay, so for shapes it says, arrow, so forth. Okay, let's see, we've got some shapes, so star, heart, and it tells you whether you've grouped it, not grouped it, or anything like that. So this is what it currently looks like. So the layers panel still here and color sync. Okay, so that is what it currently looks like in today's version that most of you have. Now, When you move to version 7.2, it's going to look a little different. It may look a little scary, but it's not. I just want to explain the differences to you in a way that maybe will make sense to you. Now we're looking at what version 7.20 is going to look like when you get that. And the layers panel looks different. There's a few things that are changed. I'm going to show you step by step what all the changes are, so hopefully it will be second nature to you by the time you see this in your version. So right now I set up the screen just like I had the other one set up, just to make it more comfortable for you guys to see it that way. So, you know, we have a single image, we have two images, I group those, you slice it the same as just like we did in the past version. So I took these three and tried to slice them. You can't slice three, you can still just slice two using the slice function. But what you're going to notice is that the layers panel looks completely different now. And you will, here's the layers panel, and color sync is right there next to it, just like it's always been. The thing that you're going to notice the most up here, we used to have words underneath our little menu selection there, and they've taken the words out. I don't know if they're coming back or not, but the words are not there. But don't worry, all you have to do is hover over that image and you'll see it. So the little trash can is delete. The little two boxes with the plus is duplicate, and then this one is group. This is the biggest change in that menu section, because we used to have group and ungroup as two separate icons. Now they've just made it a toggle switch basically. So here we have, let's see, it's group and then you ungroup it. So now you see that these two hearts are grouped because it created a group, or I can click it again and it ungroups them. Okay, so that's the difference here at the top. Then you're going to notice that there's a whole new look for the whole panel. So before we had, you know, like little lines that you could see where it divided each of the sections where your different images were. They've taken that away, but what you do see is when you hover over each line, it changes it to a darker color like it did before. You just don't see that line there. Okay guys, so the greatest thing you're going to see now in the layers panel is I can right click on one of my images and it says rename. So I can click rename and it's going to let me rename that layer, okay, or the image rather. So I can say pink heart if I want, okay, and I can do that on all of them. So I'm just going to do these two, teal heart. Okay, pretty cool. So you can rename your layers. All right, so that's really nice. We've been asking for that for a while, and it's super easy to do, as you can see. Now I can take those same two layers and just by control, hitting both of them at the same time, now I can form a group. Okay, so all I did was I highlighted each one, I used control, so it selected those two, and now I can go up to group and I can group them. Okay, so now it has the name of that layer, of each of the layers that are within this group. You cannot rename a group though. You can't name a group. Let me put it that way. But you can still have these separate if you want. Now, the other cool thing that I wanted to show you, and if you don't want them grouped for whatever reason, you decide you don't want them grouped, all you have to do is hit that ungroup again, and you'll see that now they're just two separate. They're not part of a group. Super easy. Guess what else you can do? You can now drag and drop your layers on your layers panel. I know we've asked for that for a while. So let's say this is just a group of text here where it says new look layers panel. I can grab this as an image and I can pull it up. I can move it. Look at that. I moved it up to the top. So if you are working with a lot of images on your design mat, a lot of times we were having trouble because we wanted to move. It would be great to move some things around on the layers panel just to help us visually put things where they need to go, maybe group them or whatever. Now you can just drag and drop them. Isn't that cool? I think that's a great feature. The greatest thing you're going to see is at the bottom of the panel. That's the biggest change here. So you still see slice And where you used to say weld, it now says combine. So the weld features are going to be there, and I'm going to show you how to use those. And then attach is still there, flatten is still there, and contour is still there. So the main difference we have here is where it says the word combine. So let's take a look at what those mean, because that's the thing that everybody's talking about. It seems scary, but when I show you, I don't think it's going to be scary anymore. So now we're going to talk about what are the actions underneath combine. Guess what? That's where the weld feature went. So I'm just going to highlight these two shapes. I've overlapped them just like you always have to when you weld. And when you come down here to the bottom menu where it says combine and you do the little drop arrow there, that's where weld is now. Okay, so weld is still there. So if you're comfortable with weld, you use it all the time, and you want to use weld, more power to you. It's still there. Slice is still there. Attach is still there. Flatten and contour is still there. The only thing they've done is that they have added some extra actions that you can do underneath the word combine. Okay, so it's giving us some extra features that we use in some other outside software. So this is what I wanted to show you, was we can still weld. So we're going to weld this just like we normally would. And it combines the two images, right? Just like it normally would. It always changes it to the back color, whatever image it is that you're doing, it changes it to that color if you've put a color on your object. I did the teal and the blue just so y'all could see the difference. Okay, so this image is welded. It cannot be unwelded. You can come up here, if you haven't saved your project yet, you can come up here and hit the undo button and it will unweld it only right that minute, right? If you save your project, you cannot unweld. That's the thing that we've always hated, right? Later on, you go back to a project and you think, gosh, I wish I could unweld this because I want to change it up a little bit and I don't want to have to recreate the whole thing. If you now go over, we're going to hit this one, and we're going to use the word unite instead. Unite is just like weld, except you can undo it on your projects. So let's go down here to combine, and we're going to hit unite, and you'll see that it's going to do the same thing that weld does. Okay, looks the same, right? However, if I was to save this to my project and then later I came back to that project and I wanted to undo this combining of the image, I can do it now because I can come back over here. I can highlight that shape, image, whatever it was I created by welding something together. But if I used unite, I can come down here to combine, and right here there is undo unite. Yay! So I can undo unite. Now it's two separate pieces. I can go back into it and I can unite it again if I'd rather have it united. It'll take a second and now it's united again. So my recommendation would be, if you're comfortable with weld, but you really want the option to not have to be able to unweld it at some point on a project, start using unite underneath combine instead of weld. Okay, so that's tip number one. That's what the difference is between weld and unite. Weld, you can't change it. Unite, you can on your project. Can't make it any easier than that. Okay, so we've got weld and unite. We've just talked about those. Let's talk about subtract. Okay, so I've got those same two shapes. I'm going to come down here to combine, and I'm going to subtract. It'll take a second to do that, and look what it did. It has now just subtracted the one shape that was on top, like the cookie cutter, right? And it has subtracted away part of that image. The teal got subtracted from the pink. Okay, so this is what subtract looks like. It's going to take away. So we've got subtract now. All right, and you can, guess what? You can go in and you can undo subtract. Subtract is kind of like slice, where it takes the image away and we're not having to pull the pieces apart. Like when we slice something, let me show you. I want you guys to understand the difference. That's why I'm going into all this detail, because people seem really freaked out about this new change in design space, but it's really not that scary. Okay, so when you were going to slice something, you would take the two objects and you would hit the slice button. Now when you sliced it, you would have to move away part of the images like this, right, to get to the part that you sliced out. That's the same thing as subtract, right? Except that this part, it takes it away for us automatically. So that's what subtract is. Pretty easy. We've got weld, unite, subtract. Nothing scary there yet, right? And now we're going to try using intersect. So we're going to come back down here to subscribe and we're going to do intersect. Now intersect's really interesting because it takes away all the other pieces except where it overlapped. Okay, so here we've got it where it's just the piece that where the two overlap. Now I'm not sure why I would ever use this part, but that's what intersect is. Okay, so it just leaves the piece where the two overlap. If you actually put this back over here, see, it is the same piece, but it just gives you that part. Okay, so maybe when you're designing, this is useful to you somehow. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to show you was the word exclude. Okay, so we're going to take those two hearts and we're going to go down to combine and we're going to look at exclude. Guess what? Exclude leaves you everything else except the part that it extracted in the middle. Okay, so that's that same piece. If I slid it up in here, it would fit right there. Okay, so this is what exclude means. So these are not hard or scary terms, and depending upon what kind of projects that you're trying to put together and you're using different images and you're trying to do a little bit of more designing in design space, now you have some extra actions that you can take on your images. That's all that means. So let me show you one more thing, and I have some shapes I put on my mat here. I'm just going to ungroup it because I want to move this star out of the way for a moment. So let's say that I am building some type of a mat, maybe a background, or I'm doing things like that. I might want to play around with some shapes. Instead of using weld, if I use combine and I use unite. Okay, so I've got this united. Okay, now let's say that I am building a kind of a fun mat to use for the background of something. And let's say I thought I wanted to add this star here, and I can come down to combine and I can say unite, right? Pretty cool. But let's say I did that and I should have added a star up here. I can come back down here to combine. I can undo unite. I can then highlight this, make a duplicate of that same image, and I can change it over here. I can change the size of it. Let's say I wanted this side to look like this. I would be able to do that because instead of welding it, I used unite. So now I can go back over to unite and I can unite these again. So now you can see where you can start building, but if you don't do the weld feature, if I welded this, I would not be able to go in and just grab those same images and duplicate them again. I would have to go find the image again and do it and create it again. So, but by using this feature, it gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to change up. Let's say I want to add one. See, I want it to look like that down here. Okay, I can take it, change the shape, go down to unite. Okay, so let's say that I have this now and it looks great. It looks exactly what I want it to look like on my project. All right, now I know that I don't want to change this again. This is one project that I'm making. I'm not going to go back. I don't want to have to change this again. I don't want anything to happen to this. So I can actually go down and I can say merge the layers. Once I say merge the layers, guess what happens? You cannot change it again. It's just like Weld, where we cannot change it once we save our project. So I can say merge the layers. once I've merged the layers, you'll see over here in the layers panel, it shows you what all got merged. Okay, and now this is a solid piece. No longer down here have access to go in and change this. So once you merge it, it's kind of like Weld used to be, where you cannot change it. But I wanted to show you that so that you have some flexibility and some options. That's why I think the Unite feature is so cool to use instead of the Weld feature. Now, of course, let's see, if we go over here to the undo button, because we haven't saved this project yet, will it undo it? Yes, it will. You can undo it as long as you haven't saved your project yet. And then I would be able to come back over here and I can undo Unite again. But if I merge it and I save my project, I cannot go in and undo it. Those are the differences. That's some of the fun stuff that's in the new look that's coming in version 7.20. I showed you at the beginning of this video. If you don't have that version yet, you can go play with the beta. Now remember, it's in beta, so some of the stuff is, you know, still a little clunky. They're still making changes, but please like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because as a Design Space comes out with more changes in Design Space, I want to make sure that you guys know and have the latest and greatest information on that, because I know it's confusing when you go to design and all of a sudden you're like, where the heck did they move all this stuff? How do I use it now? Always come over to my YouTube channel, because I will have a whole playlist for you guys of whatever the latest changes are in Design Space, so you can get up to speed pretty quick. And if you missed a version, maybe you haven't designed in a while, go watch the video before that, because it'll be, as each of the new updates come out, I will be adding to that playlist so you can kind of follow along with the different changes that have happened. I hope that's helpful. Please come join us in the Let's Learn Cricut Design Space Facebook group, where every day we help each other with things in Design Space and inspire each other with our creations. Thanks a lot. Happy crafting, everybody.